Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our session for today. Right, as I welcome you, I want to remind you that your test that you are writing on Friday is actually based on everything that you have done up to this stage. So actually, it's basically the wall of costing. So you should make sure that you are also revisiting some of the things that we have done. Actually, I'm mainly concentrating on those things that we haven't looked at so that you will not be shocked when you see some of these things. Is that right? So actually, today I want to look at transfer pricing. Then I'm thinking about maybe having a short session again tomorrow, whereby I look at pricing strategies. So I will update you if it's possible for us to meet tomorrow. I just want to look at pricing strategy so that at least you have an idea of everything. In case anything comes, you will be there to answer anything. You will not be shocked with any. Of course, I know that generally a student for MSc will always say the paper was different from whatever we learned. I know you, but at least it will be what we have learned, right? So I will tell you tomorrow if it is possible for us to meet, because I think I'm supposed to also try to meet also the AUE guys. So I will see how I will accommodate the two of you tomorrow evening. So I will tell you, by just check your groups by tomorrow. But very short, because I would like to see you for a long time when you are writing the next morning. So if I have to see you, it will be for brief meeting, where I just explain to you one or two things on that, on the price, so that you can be able to know what's happening. Right. So today my main area is transfer pricing. Right. It doesn't have much, and it's not all that complicated. Right. We deal with transfer pricing when we have got divisions or departments of the same entity that sell products to each other. Right. For example, we might have one entity which is into wood, which keep forest and produces wood. They produce wood. Then we have got one entity which produces furniture. And this entity that produces furniture requires wood from the wood manufacturing department. They are all owned by one company. So now the question can be, the furniture manufacturer can need to buy wood from the wood manufacturer, right? Now the issue is, at what price should the wood department or wood division sell their wood to the furniture manufacturing division? We can also have a farm, and we also have a shoe manufacturer which manufactures leather shoes, and they buy the leather from the farm. The issue is, at what price should the leather be sold to this other company, right? To someone it might appear as a simple question, that they should simply sell it, to each other at the market price, but it's not like that. There's an issue. Number one, there can be an issue, especially when the selling division can be able to sell to their own external market the same products. Let's say this wood manufacturing division, they've got wood, they can either sell to their sister company, the furniture manufacturing division, or sell it to outsiders there. Now, when they are selling to outsiders, they are getting very good profits there. So, and at the same time, this furniture division, they can buy from their sister company, or they can buy the wood from outsiders. So at the end of the day, they have to agree on the price that is to be charged. At the end of the day, the interest of the company as a whole should supersede the interest of the separate divisions. Right. So this is used in determining the best price at which products can be sold between companies under the same ownership. Right. So companies, let me not say companies per se. Let me in this module we normally talk about divisions, but practically they can even be companies. They can be run as separate companies under the same ownership. So what is the best price that company A can sell their product to company B? Right. Our main issue is about performance management. Company A will be judged based on their own performance. Company B will be judged separately on their own performance. So if there are favors in this deal, these favors are likely to disadvantage one party. For example, if the wood department sells at a very low price because it's their sister company, their profits will be lower. And maybe their return on investment, as we calculated last week, can be lower, and they might not meet the target, and they might not even get bonuses, the managers of the wood department. Whilst the furniture division, because they bought wood at a very low price, they will have very good returns and they earn a bonus. So we're disadvantaging one party at the expense of another. Right. So the price set should normally be in the best interest of the company as a whole. And not the individual divisions. So of course they've got their own interests, and we should take them into account because they will be judged by their performance. But at the same time, we should remember one thing, that the overall goals of the entity are more important than the separate goals of the of the divisions. So at the end of the day, we should put more importance on the goals of the entity as a whole. Right. So we're saying the two parties should find each other midway. And find and determine a price that will not disadvantage either party. Of course, we know that practically, whatever concessions that they might disadvantage one party, but we should try by all means that all parties would be happy. Remember that disharmony amongst the divisions can be taxing for the organization. It can even affect the motivation. There are behavioral aspects that are linked to transfer pricing. It can demotivate one of the departments. Let's say, for example, if the managers of the wood manufacturing division, if they discover that they are no longer getting a bonus because of the low transfer price set by head office, which they are transferring the wood to the furniture manufacturing, whilst furniture is getting a bonus, they might relax their efforts and the productivity will go down and the overall profits of the company will go down. So at the end of the day, we should also take into account the effects upon the parties in the group. But at the end of the day, but at the same time, we should always remember that the profits of the company as a whole are more important than the profits of the separate divisions. Right, we've got two prices that are determined, that we need to determine for us to find the best price. We've got what we call the minimum transfer price. This is determined by the selling or transferring division. So that division, which is transferring the goods. In my example that I talked about, that's the wood manufacturing division. They determine what is called the minimum transfer price. What is the minimum transfer price? This is the lowest price that can be acceptable for the supplying division. So that's the lowest price that they can say, okay, as long as we get this, it's fine. Whatever price you determine, as long as it's this or above. Let's say if they say 20 is our minimum. Even if you want to pay us 25, it's okay, but 19 will not accept. So the minimum transfer price is determined by the supplying division. And this is the lowest price that they can be able to accept. Any price that is below that minimum transfer price is not acceptable from the viewpoint of the what? Supplying division. Right. Now, this minimum transfer price, this is made up of the total cost related to fulfilling the transfer plus any lost contribution if external sales are sacrificed. Right. What do I mean here? Right. External sales are sales to parties outside the outside the group. Right. As we said, the wood manufacturing division can sell their wood to the furniture or to other outsiders. So if supplying to the furniture division means sacrificing some of our sales to the external market, this division is to compensate us for all the profit that we could have earned by supplying to the external market. Otherwise, it doesn't help us. If you can't give us that profit, then it's rather better we sell to outsiders and you find a way to buy. So we're saying the selling division should be compensated for any contribution that they could have earned, which they will no longer earn because supplying to their fellow division. Right. The lost contribution you are going to learn, it only comes into play if the supplying company does not have a excess capacity. So a lost contribution will only be taken into account if internal transfer is resulting in reducing external market sales. Otherwise, it is irrelevant. If the internal transfer does not affect external sales. Right. Let me just give you an example. Let's say the wood manufacturing division, they've got the capacity to produce 100,000 square meters, and their external market needs 60,000 square meters. That means they've got an excess of 40,000 capacity of 40,000 square meters. And the a fellow division, the furniture division, if they need 30,000 square meters, that means we can be able to satisfy our external market and our fellow division without any problems. So there will be no lost contribution. So we just need them to compensate us for the total cost of fulfilling the transfer. But now, let's say we've got the capacity for 100,000 and our external market is 100,000. And these guys, they want 30,000. So what will that mean? That will mean that for us to fulfill our internal transfer, we have to cut 30,000 from our external market, which we're supposed to supply. And when we do cut, we're going to lose money. Whatever we will lose, we're saying these guys that we're giving our fellow sister company, they should compensate us for all the contribution that we would have gained there. Otherwise, our profit statements will record a reduced profits if they don't compensate us. So I think the minimum price, as long as our external market is not affected, it's okay if you can just compensate us our costs. You are our sister company, by the way. So we can produce for you, just compensate our costs, then that's fine. But if it means sacrificing our external market, you have to compensate us our costs plus any lost contribution that we could have earned if we had supplied our external market, so that our performance measurement will not be affected. Right. Then we also have what we call the maximum. We're going to do that using examples. Maximum, then it will be more clearer. Maximum transfer price. This is determined by the receiving, by the buying or receiving division. In my example, we're talking about the furniture company. They are the ones who determine the maximum transfer price. So they'll say, guys, from the wood division, this is the maximum price. As long as your price is above this, we can't buy from you. So this is the highest price. Acceptable for the what? Buying division or receiving division. Any price above that, they will not accept it. So normally, the furniture division, their maximum price is the price that they can buy elsewhere. So this is the total cost that will be incurred if purchases are done externally. You are going to learn about the costs that can be that will not be included and those that can be included. So if we are buying our wood 800 Rand from our own suppliers and you are paying transport of 20 Rand, that is all in all, we're paying 120. You guys, the maximum price that we can accept is 120. If you charge anything above 120, we better go and buy outside. Because once we buy at more than 120, our performance, our profits are going to reduce and we might not even get a bonus. So for us to buy from you as a sister company, we want to promote the business of the company. So it's rather better to buy from our sister company than from outside. But we can only accept that if your price is acceptable. And for the price to be acceptable, it should be at the maximum that we can buy from outside. Although you are the same, because you are our sister, it's rather better to give you. It's just like if your brother is selling a television for 2.8 and you know that the television at the shop is also 2.8. You'd rather give your brother, isn't it, than to give the shop. I know some of you are saying, no, I will not give my brother. But that's the reality. That you would rather give your fellow a company that money as long as it's the same quality, even if they are same price. It will be in the best interest of the company to do that. Right. So that will be the maximum transfer price. So you should know that the minimum transfer price is determined by the selling division, then the maximum by the buying division. Then we meet in between the minimum. So any price between the minimum and the maximum, as long as they are at different ends. Let's say the minimum transfer price is 50, the maximum is for the other company is 70. Any price between 50 and 70 can be acceptable for both parties. If it becomes below 50, the selling company will not accept. If it's above 70, the buying company will not accept. So our transfer price that will benefit both parties should be a price between 50 and 70. But there are some other rare circumstances where, let's say, the minimum is 80, then for the other one, the maximum is 75. Then that means they cannot sell to each other. It's rather better that the selling division, they sell to their external customers. Our furniture division, they buy from their own customers. But of course, there are other factors that can come into play. For example, the company can say, okay, although the wood division is more expensive than external suppliers, there are advantages in that they will supply on time, and we can make them prepare the quality that we need. We can put systems in place that will ensure that we exactly get what we need. So we can end up buying from the what? From the fellow division. So at the end of the day, as I said, the overall interests of the company will take precedence over the interests of the various divisions. Also remember that when you are determining your transfer price, your minimum transfer price, you have to check if the lost contribution comes into play or not. How do you check? You have to check if the company has got excess capacity or not. You will see it when we deal with the questions. Right. So now I want to actually, so that it can become clearer, I now want to use examples so that you can be able to see what we're talking about here. Right. So that it can be clearer then. Right. We're using the same document that we're using last week. We're using the same document that we're using last week when we're doing performance management. But now I'm now concentrating on questions that have to do with transfer pricing. Right. Biancino Limited manufactures coffee products. The company has two divisions managed by independent management teams, namely the coffee division, which manufactures instant coffee that is sold to grocery retailers, and the cappuccino division, which manufactures instant cappuccino that is sold to vending machine providers. Both the instant coffee and the instant cappuccino are sold in powder form. The cappuccino division currently acquires the instant coffee from an external supplier. Right. So you see, this cappuccino, they are buying the instant coffee from outside. They are not buying from the coffee division, although the coffee division is producing that coffee at a cost of 40 per kg. The company is investigating the possibility of transferring the instant coffee needed by the cappuccino division from the coffee division. The cappuccino division will save 3 Rand per kg procurement costs if the instant coffee is transferred internally. Right. So currently, the cappuccino division, they are buying at 40 per kg, and also they are having procurement cost of 3 Rand per kg. So all in all, that means they are paying about 43 Rand to buy from outside. 40 per kg for a purchase and 3 Rand for procurement cost. Right. Now let's go and check. Right. Our focus on this question is here, number C. Right. I think you know that we did E in the previous class when we were doing performance management. right? Ignore the discontinuance decision. Determine the minimum price per kg the coffee division will be willing to transfer the instant coffee. Right. The coffee division is the supplier. They are selling coffee, which is required by the cappuccino division. So for how much can they transfer that instant coffee? So they have to determine their costs, because obviously if we have to give you, you have to compensate us our costs. Then we have to check if we are going to sacrifice our external market. If we are going to sacrifice our external market, you have to compensate us for all the losses that we're going to suffer because of that. So for you to determine the minimum price per kg, you have to go to the coffee division and get what are their costs for producing a kg of the coffee, and check if there is any lost contribution. Remember, we said the minimum price is the cost incurred plus the lost contribution. And when we're talking about costs that are incurred, we are not, we don't include a fixed costs that will be incurred whether we sell to our fellow department or we don't produce anything. Those are irrelevant costs in this case, right? So you have to go to the coffee division and understand their scenario, right? So let's go to the coffee division, right? This is the coffee division. The coffee division is a maximum capacity of 2,200 instant coffee and is budgeted to run at 95% capacity during the budgeted period. The budget assumes that all instant coffee manufactured will be sold to external clients at a market price of 50 Rand per kg. Is that right? The budgeted variable manufacturing cost per kg amounts to 20. The division incurs additional budgeted cost of 8 Rand per kg to package and deliver the instant coffee to all external suppliers. Right. So this is what the coffee division is incurring. So I want to check the minimum acceptable price. Right. Remember, we said your minimum price will be the cost that you incur for selling to your fellow company. The cost that you incur for selling to your fellow company. Right. Plus any lost contribution if you are going to cut your external market. Right. We know that, let us do calculations. So first of all, we need to see if there is capacity to save our fellow comrades. We have to see if we've got excess capacity. Do we have the capacity to sell to them without affecting our external market?
No.
Right. So we need to check. We don't know, we need to check. Right. Their maximum capacity is 2.2. This is the maximum capacity. And currently they are running at 95% capacity. That means they've got excess capacity of 5%, which they are not using. Right. So let's calculate what is that excess capacity. Right. What is the reason for me doing this? Right. Remember, I said for you to determine the minimum transfer price is the cost that we are going to incur to produce the items plus any lost contribution. So we want to check if there is any lost contribution. You always have to check if there is any lost contribution unless they've already told you. In this case, they have not told us anything. Right. So what are we going to do? We would say please make sure that you ask if you are left over. If I leave you out and you are not there, right? The excess capacity. that is 5%. Remember that they are currently producing at 95%. So the excess capacity is 5% multiplied by 2.2 million. What do we get?
110,000.
Hello?
100
100 what?
110,000.
110,000.
Thank you, guys. Right. So we're saying by this, what do we mean? It means the coffee division can be able to supply 110, a maximum of 110,000 kgs to the cappuccino division without affecting their external market. That means the okay, let me just put a headline that we want to try to determine the minimum transfer price here. So my friends, so we're saying the coffee division, as far as they are concerned, they can sell 110,000 kgs to the cappuccino division without affecting their external market. So they'll be able to satisfy their external market and give up to 110,000 kgs to the cappuccino division without a problem. But the moment that the cappuccino division wants more than 110,000 kgs, there will be a problem. They will now have to fulfill that. Remember that the 2.2 is their maximum capacity. They can't exceed that at the moment. Without new machinery, without new expansion of the facilities, any supply of more than 110,000 will mean cutting the external market. So that's what we want to find. So how do we find that? We have to go and check what are the requirements of the cappuccino department, cappuccino division. So cappuccino division requirements. This will help us to see if we have enough that will be required, right? If you go, the cappuccino division requires, this is the cappuccino division, right? Now let's read. The division manufactures 3 types of products, namely regular cappuccino, R-cap, flavored cappuccino, F-cap, and unsweetened cappuccino, U-cap, and uses 250 grams of instant coffee to manufacture 1 kg of cappuccino, regardless of the type of cappuccino manufactured. So for each kg that they are going to manufacture, they will need 250 grams of instant coffee. So we have to go and find out how many kgs of cappuccino are they going to produce. Right. Now, you are given the following budgeted data for the forthcoming year. The cappuccino division is budgeting to produce and sell these kgs. These are in kgs here. We're told that these are in kgs. Yeah. In kgs. So the total, they want 800,000. And we know that each kg requires 250 grams, regardless of the type, whether it's R-cap, U-cap, or F-cap. They just want 250 grams per kg. So they've got 800,000 kgs and each requiring 250. So the grams that they need are 800,000 times 250 divided by 1,000. Why am I dividing by 1,000? Because the 250, if you can check, it's given in what? In grams. To convert that to kgs, I have to divide by what? By 1,000. Right. So what do we get? Because each of these 800,000 requires 250 grams. What do we get? 200,000.
Yes.
That means the cappuccino division wants 200,000 kgs. Right. So if they want the 200,000 kgs, that means the units to be sacrificed from external markets. Why did I say why did I see that there will be a sacrifice? Because their demand of 200,000 is more than the available capacity of 110,000. Because we can only give them 110 without a problem. So the other 200,000 minus 110,000, which is equal to what? 90,000 kg. For us to supply them, we have to cut our market. So that means from our external market, we are not going to supply some of our customers who are buying 90,000 kgs and reallocate those 90,000 to the cappuccino, in addition to the 110 capacity that we have, which we will just produce from our external capacity. Now, because of that, there will be lost contribution. So then let's find out how much was the lost contribution. Right. You know what is contribution? That is selling price. Right. Right. That will be our selling price. That means the lost contribution, the contribution that the coffee division, the coffee division is going to lose by selling the 90,000, which they are sacrificing. Right. We know that the selling price, they are told, we're told that they sell to on the external market for 50 per kg. We're back to the coffee division here. Want to see the sacrifice there. Right. So that means it's 50 less variable cost. Remember, contribution is selling price minus variable cost. Then we have to subtract the variable cost of producing and selling with variable manufacturing cost of 20. And also there is 8 rand per kg packaging and delivery. So all in all, the variable costs are 28. Right. So we'd say variable manufacturing costs $20. We have got packaging and delivered. 8. Right. Then we find our total here, which is 28. Then we get our contribution. Our contribution per unit. Which is 22. That means each unit that we're going to sacrifice from the external market will lose 22 rand. Right. So the total lost contribution would be 90,000 multiplied by 22. So although these guys, they want a 200,000, the other 110 we're going to use our excess capacity, but this 90,000 now, which we're going to sacrifice, we're going to sacrifice some money there. What do we get?
1,980,000.
1,980,000.
Yes.
Right. Then to our minimum transfer price, right? If you still remember, I said it's the cost that we have to incur if we have to supply to these guys. That is the variable manufacturing cost. Which is 20. Remember, I said the minimum transfer price, this is made up of the total cost related to fulfilling the transfer plus any lost contribution if external sales are sacrificed, right? So that means we would need for each unit, there's a variable manufacturing cost of 20, right? The packaging and delivery, we have to understand, are they packaging and delivering to their fellow sister? Because you might find that you might be told that there might be no need for delivery to their sister company. So we have to find out if there is right. Because normally you'd find that if they are selling internally, there might not be any need for packaging and stuff like that. Right. I just want to check if there's if they gave us any instruction on that. All right. I don't see any statement there. Variable, okay. Considering that they said that this is to all external customers, we can just assume that there will be no packaging if they have to sell to internally. We can assume that there will be no packaging, so we'll not include it, because the costs that will be including are those costs that you incur if you are selling internally. Then you also add your lost contribution per unit. That was the reason for all the calculations above, so that we could determine the lost contribution per unit. Right, the total lost contribution is 1,980,000, and we'll be supplying 200,000. So we allocate that 1,980,000 over the 200,000. Why? We can't have a separate price for the 110,000 and a separate price for the 90,000. All of them have to have the same price. So at the end of the day, whatever lost contribution we calculated, when we're charging our fellow sister company, we then allocate it and spread it over all the units that they want. So we'll now say 1,980,000 divided by 200,000. Otherwise, if we don't do that, we'll now have two prices, one for the 90 and one for the 110. Right. So what do we get there?
$9.9.
9.9. Okay. Right. So that means our minimum transfer price for the coffee division would be a $29.90. That means that is the minimum price that they want. 20, which is the cost that they are going to incur to manufacture the goods. Then 990 is the contribution that we lost for selling the from the 90,000 units that we sacrificed. So at the end of the day, you have to pay us a minimum. The only price that we can accept is $29.90 or more. So that means the coffee division will ask for 29 rands 90 or more. This is the minimum. Any price below 29.90, they will not accept the internal transfer. Any questions there? So the minimum transfer price is the cost, the variable cost, normally the variable and specific fixed costs that are going to be incurred for supplying to our fellow company. Sorry about that. Okay.
Hello?
I sent it in the groups, the one that we're using last week. The same question that we're using for performance management. Someone was asking about the paper. It's the same paper that we're using for performance management. Yes? Someone was about to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that, so the minimum transfer price, it needs to be something between 29.90 and 40 Rand.
No, our minimum is 29.90. So we're saying any price from 29.90, even a million is okay, but the price does not have to be less than 29.90 according to the coffee division.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Remember that the selling division, they only have their minimum transfer price. They will say we just want a minimum of 29.90 going forward. Is that right? Right.
Yeah.
Then the maximum transfer price. I think I get what you are saying, but I think we had gone ahead to the maximum price. That's
I was.
You were ahead. I'm not yet on the maximum. Right.
Okay.
Then the maximum. So the minimum is determined by the coffee division, the supplying division. Right. Then the maximum transfer price is determined by the buying division, which is the cappuccino division. Now the maximum transfer price is the price that the cappuccino division, they are buying from their own outside supplier,
which is 40 Rand.
Yes, but it includes all the costs. So it's 40 Rand. There was also another 3 Rand, I think, for procurement. Right. So if the cappuccino division, they are currently acquiring the coffee from an external supplier at a cost of 40 Rand. And they also have 3 Rand. If they buy internally, they will save 3 Rand. That means they are currently incurring 3 Rand procurement cost if instant coffee is transferred internally. So that means we are going to have the maximum transfer price would be the purchase cost 40, procurement 3 Rand. Then our total, which will be our maximum transfer price. So they will say, no, we are currently spending 43 Rand per kg. So if you are going to give us a price, the maximum that we can give you is that 43. So at the end of the day, we're saying any price between 29.90 to 43 may be beneficial to both parties. So at the end of the day, we now determine a price maybe somewhere in between there, which can benefit both parties. But remember that we said the decision should be in the best interest of the overall company. So the minimum transfer price is determined by the selling division. And their minimum transfer price is their unavoidable costs that they will incur for supplying their sister company, plus any lost contribution that they will have sacrificed to the external market for those units that will be cut from the external market to fulfill the internal transfer. Whereas the maximum price is set by the buying company. That is the maximum that they are currently buying, the total cost that they are currently incurring to buy from outside. So then a fair price for both will be any price which is in between the two prices.
So it means in this situation.
No, we are not taking out because it's an additional cost, Maria. They are saying if they internally transfer, that's when they will save 3 Rand. So that means currently they are paying that 3 Rand. So you should be very careful with that language. That 3 Rand will only be saved if they transfer internally. So that means currently when they are buying from outside, they are incurring that cost. It's an additional cost on top of the 40. So that's why we are adding it. It will be saved when they buy from cost. Not now. Now they are paying it. Right. There was also a sister who was about to say something.
I wanted to say it in this situation, it will be beneficial for the entire organization if they buy internally.
Normally, buying internally will have various advantages. Remember that you can control the quality, you can control the lead time if your teams are working well. There are various advantages for internal transfer.
Even the prices, it will be cheaper.
Yes, but remember the issue is it's not about having a cheaper price only, but it can only be acceptable if also
they meet the required quality.
Selling. We should also look at it from the viewpoint of the selling division. Remember, they were selling like, as I said, you have to take into account what were they getting if they sell outside. Let's say, for example, my friends, let's say the coffee division, is that right? They were selling outside at instead of selling at 50, they had their own market whereby they were selling at 90. Is that right? So it can be beneficial for the company, for the coffee division to continue selling to their market for 90, whilst the cappuccino buys at what? At 40. I think you understand the logic that you might find that there's something that is got a different price in Pretoria and a different price in Joburg. So maybe the location of the coffee division, it enables them to sell at a very high price, whilst the cappuccino where they are, they can get the coffee at a lower price. So instead of doing the internal transfer, it might even be beneficial to say, okay, just stand alone. You guys sell in your market, you guys buy from your own seller. So it can only be right if, like in this case, if you can see that it's really beneficial, because these guys were buying at 43, but these guys can be able to accommodate 29.90. So it's rather better from the viewpoint of the organization to do the internal transfer. Actually, if there is an overall question on should they transfer internally or not, you can calculate the profit of doing the internal transfer versus the profit of selling external and buying external. Then if the profit for external selling and external buying is more, then there should not be any internal transfer. So it's not always that it's beneficial to buy from a fellow brand. Because remember, companies have different competitive advantages. Maybe the supplier of cappuccino has got better technologies. Their cost per unit is very low. That's why their selling price is very low. So it's not always that we can conclude that buy from they should sell to each other. It all depends.
Hello, I
Yes.
get what you're saying. That's why when I started, I said in this case, in this situation, according to this statement,
Yes.
this question
Yeah,
that
it's very beneficial to do the
beneficial
internal transfer, but you should also take into account other factors again, my sister. For example, these 90,000 that we're going to cut from the market. How about these customers? What is going to happen in future in terms of our demand? What will be the effect? Won't it result in some of them being disgruntled? Maybe they were buying even more. Then you might start to lose customers in the market. So you have to consider all the factors along the way. But from a quantitative perspective, like in this case, it is better to do the internal transfer and stop buying from outside. So that would be very, very correct from a quantitative perspective.
or quantitative factor.
Yes. Remember that normally in some questions they can ask you about the quantitative and the qualitative perspective. A qualitative will now be looking at other factors. For example, is the quality of coffee division, the coffee that they are supplying, is it the same like the one that the cappuccino was buying from their own supply? Are they capable of producing? Because they can be our sister company, but their quality is poor. All right. Sacrificing the 90,000, would it affect future business of the coffee division?
It might affect
Yes, I'm saying that those are some of the things that if they ask, in case you are asked about the qualitative, but from a quantitative, your analysis was very to the point and very correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Right. I want to quickly also do another one. So that is the transfer pricing, and on this part of the question C. So this was part C. So maybe let me just write part C so that maybe my friends who are not in the class who might want to follow through the recording may also follow. Right. Let's look at question 2. Does it have anything to do with what I want? Yeah, it has. Question 2, we want to look at part C and part D. Part C and part D. Again, we are required to determine the minimum and the maximum transfer price. Right. Highrise is an investment company with 100% shareholding in both Fine Pine Limited and CAS Limited. These companies operate in 2 different industries. Right, let's jump Fine Pine here. It has nothing to do with what we want today. I think for those who want, you can just try to do it, but we've done it before. CAS Limited. CAS Limited is a manufacturer of computers as well as computer parts. These are manufactured in 2 separate divisions that are managed by 2 separate management teams. The company management is investigating the possibility of transferring computer parts between the 2 divisions. Currently, Division A manufactures motherboards and then sells these to the external market. Division B assembles computer parts to produce completed computers. Division B currently acquires motherboards from an external supplier. Right, so we have Division A that is manufacturing motherboards, and they've got their own customers. Whereas Division B needs the motherboards, and they have their own suppliers. Right. Then we have been provided with the following budgeted trial balances for the financial year ended 30 April 2016. The budgets were prepared without taking into consideration the possibility of transferring computers parts between the divisions. So these budgets were prepared on the basis that Division A sells to their own external market, Division B buys the motherboards from their own suppliers. All right. Then we are told additional information. Division A has an annual production capacity of 10,000. If you can see that 10,000 is already equal to their number of units sold. So that means everything that they are currently producing, they are selling it. So they don't have a spare capacity. The division currently sells 80% of its annual production capacity to the export market. The balance is sold to the local market. So they are selling everything. 80 to the external export, 20 local. After the budget was completed, the rand is severely weakened against all of the major export currencies. CAS Limited prices their computers in foreign currencies their export market. Sorry. All right, so they are selling externally, the rand is weakened. Then Division B produces 6,000 completed computer units using parts which it currently purchases from an outside supplier. Management of HiRise Limited are considering the possibility to instruct Division A to transfer 4,000 motherboards to Division B. These parts are currently bought from the outside supplier at a cost of 880 per unit. If the transfer system is implemented, Division B will save delivery cost amounting to 5 Rand per computer unit and an ordering cost of 2 Rand per computer unit in respect of the transferred units. So currently, they are buying at 880. Then they also have delivery of 5 Rand. They also have ordering of 2 Rand. So those are the costs that they are incurring. The company's weighted average cost of capital is 10%. HiRise Limited head office is responsible for all the financing. Okay, that last part is about what we're doing last week, performance management. So don't worry about number 3. Now we want the minimum transfer price and the minimum transfer price and the maximum. Remember, we said our minimum, we have to check if there's any lost contribution, sacrifice, and stuff like that. Here, there's no need to check. Is that right? Why? Because it's obvious that there's a sacrifice of those 4,000. Because currently they are producing and selling the maximum capacity. That other time we had to check because they had 110,000 excess capacity. So in this question, there's no need to look at this part that I looked at here. This part here. Because we already know that all the units that are to be sold to the fellow company are going to be sacrificed from the external market, because currently Division A is selling all its units, all its maximum capacity of 10,000 to the export and to the local market. So they don't have any spare capacity. They don't have spare capacity at all. So whatever units that they've been instructed, these 4,000 units, these 4,000 motherboards are going to be sacrificed from the external market. So what do we have to do? We have to calculate the contribution that will be lost. Right, so we'll start from the calculation of the contribution. Right. So C, minimum transfer price. Right. Normally, I think you saw that worked per unit, but here we're given in total. So the easier way, instead of dividing everything to find per unit, the easier way to avoid a lot of calculations, you work with the total. After getting the total contribution, then you find how much it is per unit. And remember that our contribution is selling price minus variable cost. So that means this is the selling price minus variable cost 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the costs that we include. We don't subtract fixed costs. Only variable costs, whether production or non-production. So to calculate our contribution, we're going to say, okay, so let me just mention here so that you can follow when you are alone. The reason why we want to calculate the contribution, we want to see the lost contribution. Or maybe let me just say lost contribution, because our reason is we want the lost contribution, which also has to be factored in when determining the minimum transfer price. As long as we are sacrificing part of our external market, we have to determine the lost contribution. So as I said before, if there is excess capacity, you don't have to calculate the loss contribution. Right. If we say sales, we are given it's 8.8. Right. Then I'm now subtracting these, my friends, the variable costs, which I marked earlier on. Let me just repeat: direct materials, direct labor, variable manufacturing overheads, and external variable selling costs. Right. But remember, external variable selling costs, when we calculate now our minimum price, will not include them. Right. Less variable costs, but we include them in calculating the sacrificed contribution. Direct materials, which is 2,740,000. And you should make sure that you are using the selling division. I'm using division A, is the one that determines the minimum transfer price. Then direct labor, $2 million. Then variable manufacturing overheads, for 30,000. External variable selling costs, right. Then we find our total variable cost here. Thank you so much, Amanda. Right. Then we get our contribution. Let me just call it total contribution. Right. We know that this contribution is for how many units? It's for 10,000. So to find the contribution per unit, would say contribution per unit $3,180,000 divided by 10,000. $318. So that means of the 4,000 motherboards, that, thank you guys, of the 4,000 motherboards that was supply, division A will supply to division B, they will sacrifice 318 per each unit. So to calculate our minimum transfer price, right, we take our variable costs that have to be incurred for producing one unit, that is direct materials, which is, you can also work with totals and then divide 2,740,000 divided by 10,000. What did you get? Is it 274? Correct me if I'm wrong there.
Yes, it's
I'm
274.
not using a calculator there, I think, but it appears straightforward. Direct labor, 2 million divided by 10,000.
200.
Thank you. Variable manufacturing overheads,
43.
right? Then the lost contribution,
45.
right? Another thing, if you see here, I didn't calculate the total loss, and then what we did last time to say 318 times the 4,000. I didn't do that. Why? Because all the units, all of them, are coming from the external market. So our lost contribution per unit will be exactly equal to the contribution per unit. But if there's some excess capacity, that's when we're going to first calculate the total loss contribution and then divide it by the number of units in the order. But in this particular case, the company is operating at full capacity, so all the units are sacrificed from the external market. So that means our minimum transfer price that's 835. So that's the lowest price that they can accept, 835. Right. Also, I thought about something. If there are specific fixed costs, let's say, which were not being incurred externally, but that will now be incurred if we have to transfer internally, we can also include them. So normally fixed costs, we don't include them. But if they are what you call specific fixed costs, then they can be taken into account. But in this case, we don't, and usually they don't give you those ones in your examinations. And now when you calculate the minimum transfer price, we will not put the external variable selling cost, because if we transfer internally, we're not going to incur them. So all those costs that are specifically for the external market are only included for the sake of calculating the lost contribution, but they will not feature in the minimum transfer price. Any questions there? Right. Then number D. The maximum transfer price. Right. The maximum now is determined by division B, the buyer. Now they'll say the maximum is what they are buying from outside. So they'll just take this cost here. They are buying at 880 and they've delivery of 5 rand and ordering of 2 rand. So their maximum transfer price would be
932.
purchase cost that's 880. Then they've got delivery 5 rand. Then they've got ordering 2 rand. Total 887. So that is the maximum transfer price. Any questions? Right. So this is how we determine the minimum and the maximum transfer price. Right. For those who came in later, I said that tomorrow maybe I might try to just meet you for 1 hour. I just want to show a few concepts on price setting. I think there's one area that I haven't looked at, which is price setting. Because remember that your test is on everything. It's not on what I'm doing now. It can come from anywhere, everything. But I know that definitely to be about 3-4 topics only out of all those 12. Right. So I will just check your communication in the morning. I will tell you if we are able to meet tomorrow. But in the meantime, just practice. And if you have got any questions, please practice on everything. Practice on everything. Your standard costing, your direct costing, do it. Your performance management, do everything. Then if there are any questions, like if you see, most of the time I was using the questions, but I was doing parts of them. So now it will be like you'll be doing everything in your assessments. So prepare. If you've got any questions, feel free to call me and ask. Thank you so much. God bless you richly. Have a blessed night.